What is up, everybody? Welcome in to another episode of the Wide Eye Sports Podcast. You got Spoon, you got Riley, and you got Bryn hosting. As always, we got a packed episode for you today. We are going to talk about the NFL's top 100, top 10 list, all episode long. We're going to go over 10 through 1. We're going to talk about it, what we thought about it, what we liked about it, what we hated about it. We're going to do all that and much more right after this. Alrighty, guys. Well, how's everybody's weeks going so far? How's everybody doing? Everybody doing good?
Oh yeah,
Fantastic, man.
been on
All right,
vacation.
well,
It's been great.
yes. Same. I've been traveling. If you've watched the past couple weeks episode, you've seen I've been traveling. Today I'm not at the beach this week, not till next week. Riley's currently at the beach. He's in his beach house. I know he's not with a view of the beach behind him. This is kind of bullshit, but whatever.
Well, everyone else was out there.
Oh, okay,
Oh,
okay.
okay.
I was like,
Well, no window in the bedroom.
no. So like, we're obviously my parents got the nice bedroom, but our
Ah,
bedroom
fair
is
enough.
like close to the hallway, so there's really no good view. Out of it.
Gotcha. Well, I'll be there. I'll be there tomorrow. I'm going down there tomorrow. Riley's gonna pick me up tomorrow at the airport, so I'll be there tomorrow. Today I'm still in Missouri on the road again in a buddy's basement. So here we are. Had the best internet around. So we're making do out here. We're just making it through. But we're gonna get right underway with this. We're gonna talk about the NFL's 10-1 top 10 players of the 2023 season. And we're going to start off with a little recommendation that you like, comment, and subscribe to us real quick. We just need a little bit of help moving on. You know, we're getting to the season and we need as many people to see us as possible. And that only happens if the algorithm likes us or if you talk about us. So like, comment, subscribing does both. We thank you very much. But we'll skip all that jazz and we'll get right to it. Number 10, Max in Crosby. What do you guys think of him? I love him.
I love him. I'm fine with him being top 10, honestly.
I'm fine with
I have,
him.
I have no. Yeah, nothing
I
against him
am
at all.
fine with it, but I was shocked that he actually got into the top 10. I was thinking he was going to be
Nah.
a snub.
You think
Nah.
you think other NFL players don't like him or something?
Yeah, I think he's very much under the radar, and I think that the top 100 is becoming a lot like the Pro Bowl. I mean,
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers was on the list, and he played, what was it, 4 snaps?
Well, I mean, here's my thing, and I missed the pod last week, so I'm curious. Is this just a ranking of last season? Is that
Yes.
all we're going off of? Okay.
Yeah, they voted last season.
Because obviously, it says the top 100 of 2024. I don't know if hey, is this considered going into this season or is this
No,
considered...
based off of last season.
Okay.
Well, and it's also, when I first saw the list, I was borderline outraged. But then it was pointed out to me that the players don't vote at the end of the season. Voting happens from like Thanksgiving to New Year's while the season is still going on. And once that was pointed out to me, the list made a little more sense for where the teams would have been at that point in the season.
And every year it's like that, right? Like every year we're like, what do you mean this guy didn't make it? What do you mean that guy made this and blah, blah, blah. And, like Aaron Rodgers making the list at all is a joke, right? Like he shouldn't be on this list.
He shouldn't be on this list.
And he made like number 98 or whatever it was. Shouldn't even be on the list. There's joke. Like it's just guys get on here because of legacy and stuff like that. But we're talking about the top 10 right now. Max Crosby, 14 and a half sacks, 15 quarterback pressures, 31 quarterback hits, 23 tackles for a loss, and 90 tackles total. That's top 10 worthy. We're going to move on to number 9 in a Super Bowl champion, Travis Kelce. And by no means did he have a, amazing season. He didn't have some like glorious 1,500 yard season, some 25 touchdown season. This is a legacy thing. Like he's on here because he does it year in and year out and year in and year out. He's still the best tight end in the NFL. He was still the number one weapon of Patrick Mahomes on the best team in the NFL last year. I believe he deserves to be a top 15 for sure, probably top 10 player, at least offensively for sure, a top 10 player. But with the legacy involved, you kind of get that, easy top 10 spot secured. He's a great player. I don't have anything bad to say about him.
I don't
What do
think
you
he
guys
should
think?
be top 10.
Yeah, I think in a vacuum, if we're just looking at 2024, I mean, he was the third best tight end last year.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking. We have George Kittle at 14, who had more yards and touchdowns than Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, like I said, it's got a
Laporta?
little bit to do with the
It's
legacy.
it's 100% all it is legacy. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
he's been doing
I
it for
wouldn't
so
say
long.
all it is.
I
I
think
wouldn't
that's
say
all it is.
all.
Having
'Cause
a Super Bowl under his belt too definitely helps him secure that top 10 spot. But I'm like I said, George Kittle being 5 spots under him, more yards, more TDs.
Hey man, you're never gonna
Hard to
hear
argue.
me say Travis Kelce is outright better than George Kittle because I'm a bit of a Kittle homer, and
No,
the
I get
fact
it.
that I think Kittle can do everything Kelce can do, but he can block better. So if you gave Kittle the offense that Travis has and the targets Travis has, how does it look? But if wishes were fishes, the world would be an ocean. That's not how reality is. And Travis Kelce has 3 Super Bowl rings. He gets the legacy drip. That's just what it is.
He's also another thing I look at too is he's first option in Kansas City.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kittle's
Yeah.
third option. Actually, he's probably fourth option.
He's kind of like option 3B. He's option 3B to me, right?
Yeah.
You got
Christian
Ayuk, McCaffrey, and then him and Debo are kind of like that
Yep.
third. It's one or the other, right?
And like I said, with him still beating him out in yards and touchdowns, as being that low option, it's tough for me to say that Kelce should be 9.
It was a down year statistically for most of the league. I mean, there was I think the leading rusher this year was like 1,300 yards. I think the leading tight end receiver had just gotten above 1,000 yards. I think it was Kittle. He just barely got over 1,000 yards.
No. And I'm gonna say that I'm gonna end on this. Kelce is a top 3 tight end and the best tight end legacy wise in the game today, period. And because of that, because he's top 3 still and legacy number 1, that's why they gave him the top 10 spot. But we're gonna move on to number 8. I think there's 3 different defensive linemen in the top 10, and one of the best edge rushers in the league, T.J. Watt. I mean, this dude, year in, year out, produces at a high level. He is maybe the best straight-up pass rusher in the league. TJ Watt's phenomenal. There's not much more you can say. Leading the league in sacks. I think he had 19 sacks, if I'm not mistaken, this past year. He's not as good in the, edge defending game. He's more of a true, pass rusher. And there's nothing wrong with that. He's, elite at it. He is top end, he's a fucking Bugatti of pass rushers. So I'm not trying to, put him down by any means. I think he deserves a top 8 spot. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'm definitely okay with that.
I think in a vacuum he probably could have been top 5, but
yeah, that's honestly what I was about to say, Riley. I was going to say honestly, I could have him as high as top 5.
Yeah.
Well, we got some trenches on this list. Don't you worry. We got some trench warriors down here.
Oh, I know.
Well, you guys mind if we move on to 7 then?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
All right. So number 7, future Hall of Famer and true trenches warrior Trent Williams. You're never, ever, 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 ever going to see a flashy statistical offensive lineman because it doesn't exist. There are no stats to quantify like offensive line play. But the best thing you can do as an offensive lineman is never have your number called. And this dude does it better than anybody else, week in, week out. As long as this dude is healthy, you're not doing anything against him. He is out there as a bona fide brick wall of support in pass and run. He is an 11-time Pro Bowler. I mean, The dude's one of the greatest left tackles to ever play the game.
Yeah,
I don't-
I'm not going to argue with anyone putting him in the top 10.
Oh no! And off the top of your guys' head, can you name where any other offensive lineman was on the top 100?
No.
No, I can't. I
Was,
can't.
was
I don't.
there
put,
even
no.
another offensive lineman on the list?
Oh, I'm sure there was. I'm sure there
Probably.
was. I would guarantee you Creed Humphrey's somewhere on this list. It is amazing. He's a center, so which if you've watched the show before, I'm sure you've heard me say center is the hardest position in the NFL, not quarterback. At me, again, SSJ Skull on X at me about it. I will argue that with anybody. They have to know everything the quarterback's got to know. They have to double check the quarterback, and then they have to block a 350-pound D tackle. Okay, I know throwing the ball is hard, but blocking a 350-pound man is harder. I'm sorry, but that's my rant about it. And speaking of 350-pound D tackles, our number 6 spot is Chris Jones, the man. I mean, so 2 of Kansas City's best 3 players are in this top 5 or in this top 10 so far, and wink wink, the third one is in here. All right, Chris Jones. When the Lions went to Kansas City at the beginning of the season and beat Kansas City in Kansas City, everybody was like, now we know the Lions are for real because they beat Kansas City in Kansas City. This is a Super Bowl team. And it is when it's healthy, not when it's missing 2/3 of its best players. That's like beating the 49ers without McCaffrey and Trent Williams. Like you look at that and you're like, yeah, they beat them, but like they were missing a lot of really key pieces there. So what are you gonna do? Yeah, Chris Jones has been the second best interior defensive lineman, only to Aaron Donald, and that is saying something considering Aaron Donald is probably the best D tackle to ever play the game. And you can talk all you want, Reggie White and him back and forth, whatever you want to say about it. Chris Jones is a 3-time Super Bowl champion, multiple-time All-Pro, multiple-time Pro Bowler, 10.5 sacks, 40 quarterback pressures last season. The dude is a stud. He just wanted to get paid. He got paid, and I support him. You guys anything to add to that?
No.
So I actually think he's too high.
Whoa!
I mean, 10
he's better than TJ Watt.
10 and
I'd rather
half,
have, but he's a D tackle. He's a D tackle.
Tackles for loss.
He's a D tackle.
Myles Garrett was the most double-teamed guy in the league last year, and he put up way better stats.
Myles Garrett's an edge rusher.
Well, the
edge rushers always have more sacks.
The other half of this, and more tackles for loss.
Yeah, because he's an edge rusher. Running backs are running right at him.
Okay. The only reason he is the best D tackle in the league is because the best D tackle in the league retired. I don't think
because the best D tackle of all time retired. Because the best D tackle of all time retired.
There is an asterisk next to it.
He's the second best D tackle. Hold on. He's the second best D tackle of the 21st century.
Chris Jones has had 15.5 sacks once. I think that was his.
He's a D tackle. He's a D tackle.
22.
Which is why he's the best of all time. He's the best of all time.
I mean, listen. I do understand that.
GOAT level stat.
What's Aaron Donald's been how high before? Hasn't he been number 1?
Twice.
I think he
was number 1 in back-to-back years.
Yeah.
Okay. And he listen though, he does have the stats to prove it, which he does. But the thing is his stats are almost double what Chris Jones is.
Yeah, because he's the best ever.
I get that, but Chris Jones getting up to 6 with like half of his stats.
Yeah,
I get what he's saying. Do I hate it? I don't hate him being that high, Brenner. I'm not saying that I disagree with what you're saying, but I see what Riley's saying as well.
I mean, Riley, first of all, Myles Garrett is higher on this list, spoiler, than Chris Jones. But TJ Watt is a better Chris Jones is a better defensive player than TJ Watt is.
Okay, Riley, I want to ask you this. If you don't have Chris Jones at 6, how low would you put him? Like what range would you have him at?
Man. Top 20.
Top 20. Okay. I was going to say top
Riley,
15.
he would be the best player on the Bears tomorrow.
I think the only reason he's talked about like he is because he's the best player on the Chiefs defense. If he's on the Ravens right now,
you mean on
he's
one of
not
the
being talked about.
Hold on. The Chiefs defense was an all-time playoff defense, like one of the greatest playoff defenses there's ever been. Going through a gauntlet of teams last season, saying he's the best player on the best playoff defense ever is a huge compliment. And that lends to the fact that he should be in the top 5 to 10 players.
That I do not agree. I just don't. If you are that guy, you are going to put up impactful plays. And
he did as a D tackle. He did.
It's not the post. It's the 2024 season. The voting took place before the postseason ever started. They were going off.
And he had already made that.
And he did not perform in the regular season.
Yes, he did.
I do not agree. 10 sacks and 13 tackles for loss don't do it for me.
But 10 less quarterback pressures, 29 quarterback hits. I mean, that's all great numbers to me. And from a D, you're thinking edge rusher here. D tackles don't put those numbers up ever. Those are unheard of for D tackles.
Aaron Donald did it day in and day out.
That's like saying fucking Josh Allen isn't that good. Tom Brady won 7 Super Bowls. Josh Allen, he hasn't even won 1 yet. Like, that's what you're saying. That's what you're saying. But like you're saying because, but the point is because a all-time great had these accomplishments, that diminishes when other players have slightly lesser accomplishments but are still really good, right? Like, let's.
No. Okay, no.
10 sacks is a top 6.
To give you just a little, like, just some stats to back it up a little bit. So the Chiefs did have a great defense. They did. They had an awesome defense, but
they struggled early. They got way better at the end.
I was gonna say though, they were top 4 when it came to receiving yards allowed. So that means that they were one of the best when it stopping the pass.
L'Jarius Sneed was great last season. Trent McDuffie great last season. But part of that is because they didn't have to cover very long.
But they were also in the bottom half when it came to rushing yards allowed. And that is where Chris Jones comes into play. So I get that part. Did they step up at the end of the year? Yes, they did. I 100% agree.
Yeah, they struggled early when Chris Jones had just gotten back in the lineup. He had just come back from getting his extension. They struggled early, but they turned it on when it mattered, and they were the best defense in the NFL the last 8 weeks of the whole season, Super Bowl included.
Looking back at this Chiefs defense, though, I 100% think of secondary immediately before I think of offensive or defensive line. That's my problem.
I mean, they had the secondary when they played Detroit. Chris Jones comes back, and then they start becoming great again. I mean, it's you guys are killing me with this. We're gonna move on. We spent enough time on this. To Myles Garrett. I mean, this dude is, in my opinion, the best defensive player in football, and that's period, end of story. Like, he is the best defensive player in football, and I think that's reflected here as he's the 5th best player in the NFL last season. What do you guys think?
I wouldn't hate if he was top 3, in my opinion.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
I think the fact that he does get the most double teams out of any defensive player in the NFL, and he still puts up stats much higher than other players in the NFL, that's wild. Yeah. I think he's very deserving of having this 5 spot. He was the highest 3.
He was the best player on the number 1 ranked scoring defense last season.
Yep.
Really?
I mean,
for the first?
That's what it says here. It says the Browns' number 1 defense.
Huh.
So it says. This is the NFL. This is the NFL.com top 10 listing, and it says right here. I'll read the quote: "A shoulder injury halted Garrett's sack pace, but even his burdened presence was a major factor for the Browns' number 1 ranked defense because of the tension he requires." That's exactly what it says.
And I'm not gonna lie. I'm more of an offensive player. I don't know many defensive players' names, obviously, besides the big ones. Like I know Max Crosby, Chris Jones. I know all of them. But I've always been more of an offensive-minded, just football fan. But I couldn't tell you. I could not name off another defensive player on this Browns defense. They were the number one defense. I know Myles Garrett. We all know Myles Garrett.
Their secondary is ridiculous in Cleveland. Let me
Yeah.
tell you that much right
No,
now.
I'm not. I know they are.
No, I'm just saying, like, as far as like giving them the credit they're due, that
Yeah.
whole defense is nasty. They had Michael Pierce on the inside of that defensive line. They got a great little linebacking duo out there. That whole secondary is. I remember like week 2 last season. One of them was, I don't remember who it was in that defense, was saying we have the mindset we're going to be the number one defense in the league, this and that. And I was like, yeah, right. You're the Cleveland Browns. You ain't gonna do that. And then they had the season they had, and I'm like, okay, all right, well, shut the fuck up. My bad. But yeah, Myles Garrett, defensive player of the year. He deserves it. Praise be to him. We'll move on. He's a Himothy guy. We're gonna move on here to number 4, and a shocker to many at the number 4 spot, Patrick Mahomes. I think I'm gonna raise my hand here. I'm gonna say it. Too high. He did not carry this team. He did not carry that defense. Carried this
Chris
team.
Jones carried.
Okay. This
Hold
is
on,
Riley.
hold on,
No,
hold on.
I want to hear what Riley has to say about this.
Hold on. Let me say it. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve to be top 5. I'm saying I think Myles Garrett deserves to be over him. Is what I'm saying. I'm saying he's 5. I'm saying he's 5. I'm not saying he's too high by like he should be outside the top 10. But I could see a world. I mean, he had 4,100 yards and 27 touchdowns. Riley, if the D tackle stats for Chris Jones don't do it for you, 4,100 yards and 27 touchdowns. Those are Kirk Cousins numbers. Those are top 15 to top 10 numbers right there. Okay, those
Lamar
don't do
Jackson
it for me.
Put up Geno Smith numbers and is at 2.
But Lamar Jackson,
but he has the rush. He has the rushing aspect. He's still like the top.
Riley is a Lamar Jackson hater, a bona fide Lamar Jackson hater.
Well, here's the thing, because I was going to argue that too. I get it, Riley. I was going to argue that too, but then I was like, you know what? Like when you're talking about Lamar, it's not just passing. You got to look at his rushing stats too. And if you look at his rushing stats, he's top 20. He's top 25 in the whole NFL. That means that he's higher. Or like Lamar Jackson has more rushing yards than a lot of starting running backs in the NFL.
And that's why in the last 3 years, he averages 4 more touchdowns a season than Justin Fields. He has thrown 3 less interceptions. Fields actually has less total turnovers.
You want to know what the crazy part is, Riley?
And Lamar averages, I think it was 40, 50 more yards a game.
This is a beautiful case scenario where you can go, tell me you don't watch the games without telling me you don't watch the games. When you watch a Ravens game, Lamar Jackson is the only reason the ball moves from point A to point B.
No.
Yes, he is.
Help.
Other than Mark Andrews, who's injured half the time.
He's had a 13 touchdown back in a season, 800 yards. If Lamar
because
Jackson
he gets them down to the 3-yard line.
He has a 1,000-yard back. He's had a 1,000-yard receiver.
Because of his presence.
Top 3 scoring defense was 1 year.
I'm not saying the defense doesn't help him out. Not saying the defense. Hold on. I said he's the reason the ball moves from point A to point B. His defensive help, whole nother thing. I will fully admit the reason the Ravens
in his
win.
Career, it was his fault because he wasn't the passer. And
early in his career, his second season in the NFL, he had like 38 touchdowns.
And he hasn't done it since. He has not passed.
No, he hasn't. Touchdowns. But he hasn't had the opportunities to do it since. They don't have him run the offense that way anymore. Because he's such a threat with his legs.
Passing yards ever last season. What do you mean?
Yeah, because he is such a threat with his legs that he can utilize that, but he can also throw the football if he needs to. He is not one-dimensional. They use him one-dimensionally, but he can do both, and he is shown and has statistic proof that he can do both. You have to respect the fact that he has proven he can throw for 38 touchdowns.
He's
proven
never
it.
thrown for 38 touchdowns.
What did he throw for?
Okay.
He's thrown for 30 or more once. Josh Allen is
what did he throw for like 35?
Season of 40-plus touchdowns.
But Josh Allen gets passing attempts from the 3-yard line. Lamar doesn't. They hand the ball off 4 straight times.
Lamar
Josh Allen
was an average passer. He wasn't a top 3 rusher last year. I mean, I what more do you want?
Because Lamar Jackson is Russell Westbrook, okay? Josh Allen is Russell Westbrook. Lamar Jackson is Nikola Jokic, okay? Nikola Jokic, it's very consistent and slow and methodical. Okay,
If
Russell
you
Westbrook
have
was
the
super
number
flashy.
one defense
Josh
every
Allen has
year
had
of your
Josh Allen
career
has
but
had the
once,
best
you
defense
don't
on
have to put
average.
up that many points. He has
Okay,
averaged
Josh Allen,
four more total touchdowns than Justin Fields, and he just got traded for his 6th round pick.
listen, Josh Allen has had the best defense on average since he entered the NFL and has not made a Super Bowl. And has had Stephon Diggs, Dalton Kincaid, James
Josh
Cook.
Allen
He's
gets
had
to the
so many more
playoffs,
weapons.
You expect him to lose to the Chiefs. When Lamar Jackson gets to the playoff, you expect him to be the reason they lose. He has had
No,
one
you
game
don't. I
where
don't.
he has more touchdowns than interceptions. And you like to talk
That's
about
not
that.
true. That's not true.
Yes, one game
We just
where
went
he
through
has
his stats
more
the other day.
touchdowns than turnovers.
Oh, then turnovers, maybe.
That three
Okay.
or you talked about that 400-yard game he had.
We're talking
which
about
had
Lamar.
496-yard game. Yeah,
We're not even
sorry.
to Lamar yet. We need to be talking about Mahomes
Yeah.
right now.
Sorry, we're talking
getting
about
off track.
Mahomes right now. Thank you, Spoon. Thank you. We got so off track there. Me
Listen.
and Riley go back and forth on Lamar. Thank you for keeping us on track here.
Listen,
Patrick
though,
Mahomes,
we're talking about Mahomes. Brenner said he's too high. Riley, is this high? Is this low?
14 interceptions, 27 touchdowns.
I think he should be one at this point. I think even in a down year, he's the best player in football.
So I understand that. He is still my number one.
What?
Listen. He's no. Hold on. He's still my number one quarterback in the NFL. Yes.
I'm letting you continue.
But he did not have the stats last year to back it up at all.
That's
nowhere
that's
near.
fair.
He was not a top 5 passing yard, and he was not top. I mean, you want to hear a crazy stat? Baker Mayfield had a better touchdown to interception ratio than Patrick Mahomes did last year.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. If I'm drafting in the NFL right now and I'm drafting the whole league, Patrick Mahomes is my number one pick.
Is my
I'm not
number
trying
one
to take.
pick, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not trying to take that away from him. I'm just saying his last year's statistics weren't that great.
Weren't great.
And as far as we're going off this, it's a huge legacy thing that he is number 4. We should probably move on, though, to number 3 in a top 3 offensive weapon, maybe even number 1 I mean, I'll say it. JJ isn't top 10 on this list, but he's a top 10. He's a top 3 offensive weapon in football. Right there with Christian McCaffrey, another guy we'll talk about in a minute. But McCaffrey, I mean, 2,023 total yards, 21 total touchdowns in only 16 games. He could have played a whole nother game. Like 1,450 rushing yards. I mean, yards after contact. 949 yards after contact. That is insanity. Like, he had half his yards before contact, or half as many yards before contact as he did after contact. So, I mean, it's just insane what this guy can do with the rock. I love it. He's the best running back in the NFL. They should just make up a new position called the CMC position because he does it all. What do you guys have any thoughts? Offensive player of the year?
He's my number 1.
Oh, really?
He shouldn't be 3. He should be number 1.
So
who would you have over him? Because I'm looking at the guy that's
the guy who's number 1. The guy who's number 1.
Why? Christian McCaffrey had more total yards and more total touchdowns.
Tyreek Hill.
More total touches as well.
Yeah.
If you let Tyreek Hill hold the ball in the backfield, I guarantee you he'd have just as many yards if they had the exact same one-for-one touches.
We didn't see it.
No, we didn't. We didn't.
I just think that okay, so here's my argument for that real quick. Christian McCaffrey is so far out the number 1 running back, it's not even funny. Tyreek is not that far out the number 1 wide receiver in the NFL.
Hold on.
He's not even my number 1 wide receiver in the NFL. So that's why
Riley, go for it.
That's why Christian McCaffrey is my number 1 guy.
So
Riley?
I very much have some mixed opinions about this. Not because I don't think Christian McCaffrey is great, but because he plays the running back position. And in the NFL, it is so undervalued that I don't know if you can have a running back in the top 5 anymore. I mean, he's the best running back in the league, but But
it's a little different because he plays receiver too. He goes out in the slot,
and that's the part where I had mixed emotions about it. Like he is a great player. I just don't know if you can have a running back in the top 5.
That's fair. That's fair. I think top three is warranted. I could definitely see top five though. This top five could all be intermixed and interchanged so many different ways, including a guy who I think got snubbed out of the top five, much less the top 10, much less the top 15. In JJ, one of only 3 guys ever to have 1,000 yards in 10 games or less. Not the point.
I get that, but since he didn't play
Yep.
the whole season,
Nope, I get it. Not the
that's why they're
point. Not the
doing it.
point. I just wanted to sneak that little side comment in there. We're gonna move on to number 2 as we were talking about fourth Lamar Jackson. We talked about it a lot. We said we went back and forth. Riley obviously thinks this is way too high.
Not way too high. I would have him still in the top 10, but
that's criminal.
I
mean,
can't
that's
have him
fair.
as the number 1 quarterback last year.
That's fair. I understand.
League MVP. League MVP.
He was the league MVP.
League MVP. And I get it. His passing stats aren't all that flashy and they're not all that great. And if he was just a passer, I would be like, what the fuck is this guy? But this guy is a runner too. He's a full-on running back and a full-on quarterback. He just has to split his reps between the two.
Go ahead.
Neither stat is like super flashy because he doesn't do either one full time. He splits his reps half and half. So it's like Christian McCaffrey. He has good running back numbers and good receiving numbers. He doesn't have 2,000 rushing yards. He has 1,500. Lamar doesn't have 4,500 passing yards. He has 3,200 because he splits his reps.
He has gotten past 4,000 total yards. I have it somewhere. I was saving this for. We were supposed to have a whole segment for it. He has gotten over 4,000 passing yards or 4,000 total scrimmage yards. I think it was twice in his career. He's gone over 30 touchdowns, total touchdowns. I think once, maybe twice. And guys like Josh Allen
but see, the problem I have with
season of 40 touchdowns.
But the problem I have with that is that Josh Allen gets 10 to 15 attempts in the red zone to have a touchdown. Guys like Lamar Jackson have 3.
But
he gets
Lamar is getting running opportunities as well.
Oh, we lost Riley for a second. I'm going to add him back in. Hold on. Riley, we lost you for a second. Hold on. We lost you for a second. Restart. We lost you.
So, but Lamar is getting more of those rushing touchdowns. Last year, Lamar had
hold on
with multiple touchdowns. Justin Fields had 6.
Hold on. You're saying Lamar gets those rushing touchdowns. He doesn't. When they're inside the 10, the Ravens run with a running back more than any other team in the league once they get inside the 10-yard line. So that means on first, second, and third down, they're pounding the rock, and if they get close enough, they're doing it on fourth down. They don't give Lamar Jackson the opportunity to throw the ball because they don't have the weapons outside of Mark Andrews to catch the ball, and he was hurt for most of last season. So Lamar doesn't get the opportunity that Josh Allen gets, and that's what you're totally just ignoring is that
Mahomes just won a Super Bowl with the most drops in the league.
Yeah, no, because his defense was amazing.
And so is Lamar Jackson's.
Until they get to the playoffs?
No, Lamar plays bad in the playoffs. His defense doesn't get bad. His defense was good in almost every playoff game.
I thought they gave up like 28 points or 30 points in their last playoff game, no?
I think, hold on, let me find it. Part of that was because Lamar kept throwing interceptions. So
that could be true.
He only threw 7 interceptions last year.
Yeah, he doesn't throw. He has more fumbles than interceptions. I will admit that. Straight out the gate.
In 2018, he lost to the Chargers. He was a rookie. The Chargers put up 23 points. The next year, another loss to the Titans. They put up 28 points.
Okay, so he would have 30 points to win the game. That's pretty.
The next year, the first playoff game he won, the defense allowed 13 points. Lost to Buffalo, where they put up 3 points. Lamar put up.
Yeah, that was that really bad game. Like, I'll fully admit, he had a terrible game that game.
And then a loss to KC 17-10, where he threw the game.
Yeah, that
stealing interception.
But he also got annihilated That see, the receiver literally got tackled. You're gonna ignore this. The receiver got tackled in the end zone, and it should have been a PI.
We've had this
Yeah,
conversation.
and everybody else but you. Everybody else but you.
That was a bad decision.
No, it was not. It was
in
perfectly
triple
fine.
coverage.
And the receiver, it wasn't triple coverage when he threw it. The two dudes
Brenner,
converged, and
you
they
are the
slowed
only
the receiver
person
down.
I have
No,
heard
everybody else
defending that
agrees.
throw.
Everybody else agrees.
No.
Everybody else agrees.
No.
We all agreed on the show except for you.
No.
Spoon
I will
agreed.
find the
Dalton
clip.
agreed. You were
There
the
was
only one that didn't
he had
agree.
3 guys wide open underneath. There was 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Why are you forcing it into triple coverage? Should it have
Because
been
it wasn't
PI?
triple
Maybe,
coverage.
but it was still in triple coverage.
No, it
That's
didn't
a
have a
bad
maybe.
throw.
It's a for sure. He was tackled with the ball in the air.
That doesn't
Tackled.
change the fact it was a
Tackled.
bad throw.
But it wasn't because he was being tackled. If he wasn't being tackled, he would have caught it, Riley. That's
No,
what you're told. You are
he was still
ignoring
in
that.
triple coverage. You can't say he would have caught it in triple coverage. The
He
safety
got
was there in
tackled,
2
and so
corners.
the safeties were able to get to the ball first. If the safeties don't, or if the other safety doesn't tackle him, the corner and the other safety are never even in play yet.
So,
He
and
catches that ball 2 yards earlier.
Now I would like to move on to a second thing. In Lamar's draft class, he has the least amount of fourth quarter comebacks and the least amount of game-winning drives. He is tied with Baker Mayfield. Baker's thrown more touchdowns.
Spoon's tired of our shit. Look at him. Look at him.
I'm ready to move on to number 1, and let's get it over with.
All right, I'll concede. I'll concede that Riley doesn't know what he's talking about. We'll move on to the number 1 overall player, and that is Tyreek Hill. And he deserves it. The dude balled out last season. Balled out. Dude's a stud.
Spoon, can I go before you? Because I kind of
Yeah.
think you're going to like what I have to say.
I hope so, because I think we're on the same page here.
I think we are. If you're going to put Tyreek Hill at number 1, CeeDee Lamb at least has to be in the top 5.
I
mean,
think
there
CeeDee
you go.
Lamb.
One
CeeDee
less
Lamb had
touchdown, a
how
couple
many
less
receptions?
yards.
Hold on. How many receptions did CeeDee Lamb have?
That I don't know. I
think
He
CeeDee Lamb
had more. He did have more.
He had like, what was it, like 30 more and
That's
less
like-
yards?
But
It
I
was
like
also
30
say
more
he had
catches.
less
like
help.
16 more receptions.
I'd say he had less help. He doesn't have
CeeDee
Waddle
Lamb had
and-
less help.
Yes, he doesn't
CeeDee
have
Lamb had-
Waddle on the other side.
100%.
He doesn't have a great offensive coach in Mike
CD did have
McDaniels.
less help. You got the best wide receiver duo, arguably,
The
in
Dolphins were
Miami.
the
And you have a better running game.
Yeah,
You got
but
two.
I don't
You
know.
got 2 top running backs on that team. The hell?
Yeah,
That's a scheme thing, not a talent thing. I'll admit there's a better scheme in Miami, and Waddle is a better wide receiver too. But if we're talking about like pure talent along the offense, like O-line included, I'm taking Dallas. Better quarterback, better linemen, just as good at running backs. Like the scheme for the running backs is better in Miami. Don't get me wrong, but the running back room was just as talented from a raw talent perspective. Like Miami was faster, but that was it. Now, tight
But
end, I'm
don't
giving to
think
Dallas.
Bigger, stronger. Yeah.
I don't think in this conversation you can talk strictly talent. I think you have to talk about what actually happened out on the field. And I think Tyreek Hill had a great receiver on the other side of him, helping take eyes away from him. I think
That
he
he
had a
did.
better offensive coach to scheme him.
I think
open.
it's the opposite. Jalen Waddle only succeeds because Tyreek Hill is on the field. Tyreek's getting doubled almost every play. Almost every play.
Mm.
Like that.
And CD is going to be the only one he's the only one drawing attention on that offense.
Only one.
Yeah.
He really is. I don't. You think anybody gives a shit about Brandon Cooks?
And
You mean Brandon
rush
Cooks, the
game-
guy who's had like 1,000 yards almost every year in the league? That guy?
We're talking about like the 31, 32-year-old receiver?
And
That's
Miami-
age don't matter.
Yeah,
Miami's
age does matter.
Rush
Look at running
game was sneaky this year just because of how fast the entire run game was.
I get that. I don't know. This is my thing. Is I think putting
Listen,
Tyreek
if
Hill at
I'm
number
going to say
one
this.
is
I'm gonna say this.
hitting
If I put-
because he's not even the best wide receiver in the NFL.
I will agree with that. I
think
will
that's-
agree with that.
I think that's giving Tyreek a huge head. because he's not. Justin Jefferson's by far the best receiver in the NFL.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And don't get me wrong. If I'm drafting for the future, Tyreek's a little older, I'm taking CD over him. But I am of the belief that last season, that if you put Tyreek Hill on any single team in the NFL, as long as a quarterback can throw a ball 50 yards in the air, he would have at least 1,500 yards. Doesn't matter.
This might be a little bit of a sneaky take, but if he had any other quarterback other than Tua Tagovailoa, he would have had 2,000 yards by now.
Here's my thing. This list, personally, everybody's been commenting about how messed up this list is, and they're right. This is why whenever people argue like, "Oh, you've never played the game, you shouldn't have a say," this is why we have a say. This is why. This is exactly
just because you respect the player.
Yeah,
just because you respect him. And he's bad on the field, don't mean he's the best. And I think...
Go ahead. Keep finishing.
Okay, I was going to say, I respect Tyreek Hill. I think he's more than worthy of the number one spot. He is, in my opinion, if I was drafting offensive talent, he would be number 2 on my board. So that's where I'm at with it. You know, like it would be JJ, and then Tyreek, and then probably Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, Christian McCaffrey. Like that would be my top 5. Off the top of my head, you could make an argument. I'm a huge CeeDee Lamb fan. I thought he was going to be the best receiver in that class. Now, thank God for JJ, but like I thought CeeDee Lamb was when the Vikings needed a receiver that year, I was praying to God CeeDee Lamb was a Viking. Like that's all I wanted. And if CeeDee Lamb was a Viking, I'd probably be a lot like our buddy Dalton, who's usually on the show, and I'd probably be dick riding a little bit. But regardless, JJ's number 1.
At the end of the day, we both got excellent wide receivers.
Bona fide studs.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say that's the list. That's all I got for you. If either of you have closing comments,
something kind of pisses me off. It's not gonna piss you guys off because y'all don't like this team at all. But I'm gonna touch up on the Detroit Lions for a second, okay?
Ooh.
Yes.
What are you gonna try to say right now? That there's a Detroit Lion that deserves to be in the top 10?
See, I already knew you got no, not in the top 10. I'm not saying that. I think I'm saying though, Jared Goff got snubbed, and here's why. 48 is fine.
I can understand.
I'm fine with him being 48. That's not my problem. The fact that you're telling me that there's 12 quarterbacks from last season that did better than him, you're out of your fucking mind. And hold on.
But take into account. Take into account his running game.
Yeah,
and his weapons.
He was not the driving factor.
No. He had one.
He was
weapon.
Brock Purdy-esque. He was Brock Purdy-esque.
Can I before we go any further, the only Detroit Lion games I watched were against the Bears, and he had his 2 worst games of the season. I think he threw 4 interceptions.
Well, right now I'm talking about the second most passing yards in the NFL, and I'm talking about the 4th most passing touchdowns in the NFL. And you're telling me that there's 12 quarterbacks that you're going to put over Jared Goff? I don't agree with that.
I'm gonna say this is Brock Purdy is Tua led the league in passing yards.
That's what I was.
I'm fine with Tua being there. I'm fine with that.
But I mean, Brock Purdy. Everybody's like Purdy's not really that good because he has this great car. So did Detroit. Ben Johnson, the second Jared Goff has had Sean McVay and Ben Johnson as his offensive coaches, and this is his best season. Like, this is the peak he can achieve. Like he is a.
But he had a great season. That's what we're going.
But he's a mid-tier quarterback, though.
I understand that.
But it's not just about the statistics you achieved. It's about who you are in the situation you were in. That's why Tyreek was number 1 because he was held
a lot.
back.
He went to the NFC Championship. He took
and then blew a 3-score lead.
That could be arguably on coaching, though.
Spoon, where
I don't disagree.
Jared Goff among quarterbacks, are you putting him top 10?
Based on this list is going off of last season, okay? Mm-hmm. If we're going off that, he's at least top 10. Is he top 10? Is he going to be top 10 this year in the NFL? I don't know. Probably not. He's probably going to be around 12, 13.
Is he based on last season?
No, he's not above Dak. We're talking about.
All right, so let's hear it out, right? So we got let's see here. We got Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Um, Joe Burrow. Are you taking him over Joe Burrow?
Last season, yes, Joe Burrow did not. I mean, he was injured.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why is he higher? That makes no sense to me. If we're going off of injuries, if we're not going off of injuries, then Justin Jefferson's higher than Tyreek Hill.
But
Allen?
yeah,
Who?
Josh Allen.
Josh Allen. I would probably throw Josh Allen above Jared Goff.
Jalen Hurts.
No, Jared Goff is above Jalen Hurts.
Did Jalen Hurts not have more total touchdowns than him though? He's tied the quarterback.
My
rushing
problem with
record.
Jalen Hurts is that
He's an Eagle.
he threw 15 interceptions. He threw more interceptions. He didn't have more. He did have more touchdowns, or he might have had more total touchdowns. when you consider
Yeah,
rushing,
'cause
because
he had
I can't pull.
15
Hold on,
rushes.
I can't pull it up. Who
But
are the
that's
other
not-
quarterbacks above him on the list? I
Okay,
can't pull it
so
up. I don't have the computer in front of me.
CJ
so
Stroud was above him.
I'd take CJ
That's-
over him last season.
Yeah, I mean CJ Stroud
That's-
was very. I wouldn't say.
Good.
I don't know about Brock Purdy. That's an iffy. That's Brock Purdy and Jared Goff should be around the same spot.
Yes.
Around this, but Brock Purdy's 28 and Jared Goff is 48. That's kind of my issue there. And then you also have, I mean, who would you take, Jordan Love or Jared Goff last year?
Jordan or Jared Goff,
There you go. Why is Jordan Love at 34 and Jared Goff at 48?
because he's a Packer. Duh.
Are we talking beginning
how
of
that
the
works.
season, Jordan
That's just-
Love? Or
Well,
end of the
exactly.
season?
That's why I take. That's why I
If
take
we would be
Love
going
or
off-
Goff over Love.
Well, even in the playoffs, Jared Goff did better.
But I don't think the Lions played.
Jared Goff went farther. I wouldn't say
Yeah,
better.
I mean,
Or
that would be considered. I would consider that better if you're going further in the playoffs. You're helping your team win.
I mean, their defense played a lot better, and then you end up blowing a.
I mean, the
I don't
Packers
know, you
defense did pretty freaking awesome to hold the Cowboys to how many?
This is true.
A bunch of garbage time touchdowns. Like that's literally all the Cowboys had that game.
I don't
they
think
had-
they were. Oh, the Cowboys had, yeah.
Yeah, the Cowboys
All
had a
right,
bunch of garbage time.
All right, all right.
touchdowns. Anyway,
We're getting
that
off
was my-
topic. We're getting off topic.
We are.
We're getting off topic of the top
That was
10.
my big. That was my big problem that I saw just looking at it from a glance because I didn't really go.
But
in
that's
depth
the
on
that's
it,
the
but-
top 100. We could talk about the rest of the list another time. That's the top 10. Make sure to like, make sure to comment, make sure to subscribe to us. We appreciate you. We could go on and on all day, folks, but we won't do that to you. We'll see y'all back here next week for the same thing, same time. Make sure to check out our other videos on the channel. We're breaking down the whole NFL schedule week by week by week by week and giving our takes on it. So until then, we'll see y'all next time.
See ya.